Welcome.
Oh, I'm matching the chair.
Yes, you're going to blend right in.
Yeah.
It's very cozy, very comfy.
Yeah.
Andrew,
Hi.
welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to see you. We've only seen each other on Zoom, so this is fun for me. You know, I'd be very curious to know, now that this movie has been out for a while, what do people want to say to you when they've seen it and they see you? And particularly here in this country, what do people want to say?
What's so extraordinary about the film is it's been out here for a good wee while, but it's just come out in the UK and Ireland, and so it's taken off. The film is just the flight has taken off, so it's lovely that it's out in the world. But what's so extraordinary is people say, do you know what line in that film killed me? And you're like, yeah, and they say, and it's always something completely different. And I think it's a testament to the movie, actually, because there's so many bits in the movie that are so devastating to people, and people see themselves in, whether they're parents or whether they're grief-stricken in some way. And that, the film is a little bit about grief, but grief doesn't necessarily manifest itself just when somebody dies. It can be grief about a relationship or whatever. So I think I've never really had it with a film before, or even with theatre in that sense, where it just has such a broad spectrum of reaction to it, and so many different people reacting to it in a different way. So it's completely wonderful.
I mean, no movie moved me more than this last year, without a doubt. Okay, so what line kills you?
It's one of Paul Mescal's lines, actually, because I find it oh Jesus, I was about to say I find it difficult to watch myself, and then Godzilla in white up there appears. It's one of Paul's lines. It's when he I don't know, there's just something that's so beautiful about Paul's performance in that, and he just talks about how easy it is to lose himself, and it's just the sort of empathy in his eyes. I think the film is so incredibly compassionate, you know. It's really tender and so raw, and I think that's why it kills people so much.
Is there a thing, we don't want to say too much for like the three of you who might not have seen the movie yet, but are there questions that pop up a lot that people ask you when they've seen it? What's come up most?
Well, there's a sort of twist in the in the film, but it's a strange film. It's sort of a little bit like a dream, and so there's a sort of I'm hesitant to call it a plot twist, but there is a sort of twist at the end. But I always, for those of you who haven't seen it, or those of you even who have seen it, people sort of want to get the answer right. Have I got this right? But I always equate it to like a dream. You know, sometimes when you wake up from a dream and you can feel really desolate, or you can wake up laughing, or there's so many different reactions, and you don't necessarily look to the dream for logic. You just accept the strong feeling, and that's what I would say to people, you know, that it's whatever you kind of want it to be. Yeah.
I like that. I know that one of the things that you are most proud of in relation to this movie is the beauty and the specificity of the intimate scenes between you and Paul Mescal. And they add so much to the movie. They're gorgeous. What was it like for you to be so bare, not only physically, but emotionally? Was that exciting as a concept, or was it frightening, or a combination?
Well, I don't know. It's really interesting about sex scenes. I think it's really important. We were very protected, you know, with the rise of intimacy coordinators. I really welcome it, because it makes you feel safe, and actually it means that you're able to have a conversation where you're able to express your fears a little bit, and actually it allows you to be a bit more daring in some way, because you feel like, frankly, if you don't like it, it won't end up in the movie if you feel uncomfortable, and so that allows you to just be a bit more free, rather than like, oh, I don't want to show this side of myself. But you know, while that was important that we got those scenes right, I think what was really wonderful about our director was, he was like, it is just another scene, and sex is just physical communication. It's a way of communicating. It's physical communication rather than verbal communication. So you have to sort of improvise in that sense, and you have to sort of listen, but you just have to listen with your body. And I'm very, very proud of those scenes, because I think they tell the story very well, and I think it's beautiful. And actually what I think is so radical about the film isn't necessarily the sex scenes, but the scenes that are around the sex scenes. And I think sort of tenderness between two men particularly, I think, is radical, because I think there are certain prejudiced factions of the community who can understand sexuality, but what they find challenging is actually tenderness between two male characters. And I think that's important that that's represented in that way, because you know, our vulnerability is our greatest power.
I saw you yes. I saw you recently on Graham Norton's show, and you kind of joked around that like you didn't want to be in the room when your mom and dad watched this movie.
Nobody wants that.
So have they now seen it?
What?
Have they seen it now?
I don't know. I don't speak with them anymore. No, I'm joking. I don't know. Like they have seen it. Yes, they have seen it. Yeah.
But they didn't have any specific questions for you, right?
Do you have some particular questions for me?
I've already asked. I would love for this audience to hear a little bit about the behind the scenes. For those of you who have seen the movie, there's this beautiful scene where Andrew gets in bed with Claire Foy and Jamie Bell, who play his mom and dad, and then the scene kind of switches, and then he's in bed with Paul Mescal. But that was like one shot. So that's really the rare moment where the four of you were,
we were
together.
Yeah.
And it was bedlam. It
was completely chaotic. I know it's kind of weird. For those of you who haven't seen the film, Jamie Bell is 10 years younger than me, and he's playing my father. So it's this beautiful idea. It's a weird thing to clap at. So that's what the premise of the film is this beautiful idea that what would you say if you could speak to your parents at the same age that you, more or less the same age that you are now? And it's a beautiful cinematic sort of idea. So you have this grown man who's going in children's pajamas to cuddle with his parents when he feels scared, and it sort of turns into this weird thing where his father turns into Paul Mescal. Easy, wow, it was just funny because we were in this 1980s creaky bed, and Jamie had to sneak out of the bed and become Paul, and this rickety old bed, and we had to have this very, very serious sort of duologue, myself and Claire, so I don't know, it's what happens when you're doing quite serious films, is that you end up, you can't be serious all day, you can't, it's like holding water, you have to keep your imagination alive. So you find yourself just hysterical the whole time, because you have to be ready. I always think in acting, you have to be, particularly in sad movies, I always think when you're playing something that's soulful, I think you have to be looking for the light, and I think when you're in comedy, you have to be looking for the soul. So I think you always have to be ready in a so-called sad film for lightness to happen, because I think if you took a snapshot of any human being on the worst day of their life, they wouldn't necessarily always be ashen-faced, because the beautiful thing about human beings is that we try, we have to eat lunch, and there's somebody who makes a joke out of, you know what I mean, that we do that, we look towards the light. And I think what's so beautiful about the film is that it's nuanced in that sense. It understands that we contain multitudes on any given day.
You've had such a fantastic, varied career on stage, on film, on TV. I would love to know if you can put into words how this film has changed you. How it's changed you professionally, how it's changed you personally.
Oh, wow, that's a lovely question. I'm just starting to process it, really, because it's, a film like this, I'm from Ireland, and when I was 16, hey, thank you, hey. So when I was 16, it was illegal to hold somebody's hand to walk down the street. So the fact that this film exists is completely miraculous to me. I went home, myself and Paul, who's also an Irishman, we went home and had the Dublin premiere of it, and it was so emotional just to be able to be seen in that way, and it means an enormous amount. And I think what's really, really moving about it, I think it's something that America was saying there about, we think that there are films that are for particular types of people, but I like this movement towards this idea that you can see yourself in so many different types of cinematic and theatrical characters. And what I love is that people of all different walks of life have responded to the film. And I think what can be insidious as a sort of minority is that you feel like you're only seen for just that just people see the label. And I think if we can just, in some ways, market our films and talk about our films in a way that is less cynical, and just realize that actually we can all see ourselves in completely opposing nationalities or genders. Our souls are such a distinct thing, and you know, you don't necessarily have to look like somebody in order to understand them deeply, and that's what the purpose of you know, dramatic art, I think, is, you know. So,
well, this film is going a long way for that. Congratulations, Andrew Scott. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stay put for a second. I know. All right, up next from May December is Charles Melton. And before he comes out, let's take a look at a clip.